I'm sitting here today with Marvin Bursch. It's August 2nd, 2013. And if you could just spell your name for me really quick.
Marvin Bursch.
Great. And you said you're married?
Yes.
To who?
Delight. D-E-L-Y-T-E.
Okay. And what was her maiden name?
Dixon.
And that's D-I-X-O-N?
D-I-X-O-N.
Okay. When did you say you got married?
2 years ago in June.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't realize it was so recent.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, my first wife passed away in 2004, so.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. It's nice when you can find another partner.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've lived on this property for how many years?
Since 1968.
Okay. And the property, just for a record, what's the address of the property?
10607 Greenfield Road,
Okay.
Loretto.
Officially Loretto.
Yeah, or Greenfield.
And you said you were born just a couple miles down the road.
Yes.
Okay. What was that address? Do you remember?
It's Harf Road. It's, I'm not sure what the address is.
Okay.
Back when I lived there, it was route numbers, you know. But I don't know what it is today.
Okay.
But it's 2 miles east of here.
Okay. And it's on Harf Road?
Yes.
Okay. And you said your dad farmed?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the farm like?
Well, we had 80 acres there, then he bought another 80 acres in Hassan, and then we rented some land. So, farmed a couple hundred acres, some of it was pasture. So, we had dairy cattle, pigs, chickens, like most other people had back then. So,
Yeah. Pretty standard.
pretty standard, you know.
Any horses?
We had horses. My dad had a team of horses when I was really young. Back in, I was probably 7, 8 years old when we sold the horses and bought another tractor. And then we didn't need them. We had 2 tractors and didn't need the horses anymore. Most people about in the mid-40s to the early 50s were replacing their horses
Okay.
with tractors.
What kind of tractor did you have?
We had a Farmall F20 and a VAC case, a smaller tractor for cultivating corn, stuff like that.
And it was a lot more efficient.
What do you mean by efficient?
Did you get more done? You covered more ground?
No, the farmers nowadays cover a lot more ground because they have a lot bigger equipment, and it's just no comparison. So I think the pace was slower back then. People were more content with. It was hard work being a farmer. It still is today, but people were content with what they had. They worked hard. My dad, he was raised on a farm. Most people around here were raised on farms, and it was just kind of generation to generation. Where now that doesn't happen anymore. If you look at the city of Greenfield here, there's really not that many farmers, active farmers. If they are, they're big farmers. The small farmer is a thing of the past.
So when you say a small farm, it was the 80-acre farm?
Most farms were 80 acres at that time, yes.
Okay. And the big farms today, how many acres would you say they are?
Well, they probably don't own it all, but they're probably farming some of them 2,000 acres. I know Conan's do.
Okay.
And my brother and Jeff, I'm not sure how many acres they farm, but quite a few acres. They rent most of it.
Okay.
So.
And you said your brother took over the family farm?
Yes.
Okay, so he got oldest brother rights.
I think so.
And you said growing up, you helped out at the farm an awful lot.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the farming and I liked the work. Sometimes I didn't want to do the work, but the heavy work, fencing and picking rocks was the worst job on the farm, I thought.
Yeah.
But feeding the cattle, I liked that and all the other stuff that went with it. Working the land, you know, and all that stuff was, I still kind of miss that.
What was your favorite season?
I don't know. I'd say it was summer.
How come?
because I didn't have to go to school then.
Ah.
So, yeah, I like summer. Winters are pretty harsh, you know, like they are today. They didn't get any worse, I don't think.
Right.
People talk about their winters years ago or so, but, you know, it was cold. It gets cold today too. So.
Yeah. So how far through school did you go?
I graduated from Buffalo in 1957 from high school.
Okay. It's somewhat unique to the area. A lot of people had to stop in 8th grade.
Yeah. I really didn't care for school, but
And you said after you graduated from school, you went on and purchased a business?
I went into service right away, right after graduation from high school, and then came out and I worked various jobs, construction jobs, because there wasn't enough work to do or income to allow me to stay home anymore. So I did that, and I worked quite a few different jobs. When I was 23, we bought the corner bar in Hanover, which is now the River Inn. And we were there for 3.5 years.
Can you describe the building when you bought it?
The building was, it had went into bankruptcy because the former owner couldn't make it. And it was a little in disarray, although we did fix it up a little bit. We just rented it for a couple of years, and then that owner of the building wanted to sell it, so I bought it. And then did some more fixing on it, and it looks pretty well like it is today. Inside it's got the same bar, back bar. They serve a lot more food now, you know, full meals and stuff. We didn't, we just had hamburgers and pizza.
Okay.
And it was a 3-2 bar. In the other, there was 3 bars in town. The other 2 were liquor bars. You could get mixed drinks over the bar, and we couldn't serve liquor. We just had 3-2.
Okay.
3-2 beer, and had off sale. We could sell off sale liquor. If you took it home with you, drank it at home, that was off sale.
Okay, so you had to run around the back and serve liquor as well into the car trunks before you run around and serve people at the bar?
Well, they would come in and they'd buy it, and then you had to go outside to get into the liquor part of the building.
Okay.
Had to be a separate door. It was kind of stupid, but so when somebody wanted a case of beer, say, you would go outside, unlock the other door, go in there and get a case of beer out for them.
Okay.
And then come back into the 3-2 bar. And they paid for it in there, so it was kind of dumb, but that was a state law then.
Okay.
So that's what we had, and then we were in there for 3.5 years, then sold that. And I got married then when we went into the bar business. Me and my brother were in it for 1 year, then I bought him out. He wanted to get out, so.
This is a second brother.
Second brother.
Okay, what are their names?
My oldest brother is Alvin. My second brother is Donald. And my younger brother is Harvey.
Okay.
4 boys, no girls.
Uh-huh. Poor mom.
Yep.
So what sort of changes did you make to the bar when you first bought it?
Basically, it was cosmetic, just cleaning it up pretty good, you know. Did some painting. There was also a beauty shop in there at the time.
Oh.
And I moved that from the front of the building to the back of the building. And she had her business back there, which used to be living quarters back there. And we did it to a beauty shop. And then expanded the off sale up in front. That's what I did there. A little more room in the bar then.
So you added in the bar, expanded the bar that's there now?
It actually looks just about the same.
Okay.
Outside of the off sale is not there anymore. So yeah, the bar, it's just, if you walked in there, the ceiling's the same, all that nice fancy tin work or whatever you want to call it in the walls, you know, it's, and I say the bar and the back bar are the same. Probably from before probably in the late 1800s that was probably built, so sometime in there.
Okay.
Not really sure.
Who owned it before you did?
Some people by the name of Kramers. Jack and Mildred Kramer
With a K?
with a K.
Okay.
And they lost it to Hub Taylor, was a previous owner. Hub Taylor at that time lived in Buffalo. And he knew my older brother Don, and he called Don one day and said, "You guys, would you want to go and take that bar over?" He said, "I'll give you a cheap rent and get somebody in there, you know."
Mhm.
That's how we got into it.
Okay.
So Donnie came and seen me, and we formed a partnership and went in there. So, and then a year later, after I bought my brother out, then Hub came and said, "I want to sell the building." Well, I had no other choice but to buy the building.
Right.
This business was getting pretty good, you know, and I kind of liked it, and so I had to buy the building. I didn't want to, but if he sold it to somebody else, they might, you know,
Mhm.
not let me be in there anymore. So
What did you like about renting?
it was cheaper.
Okay.
I mean, he put a roof on there, stuff like this. I didn't have to do that. The inside, after I bought it, that's when I did quite a bit of this work.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
So-
you didn't do the improvements while you were renting it?
We did some of the little painting and yeah, it all came after I bought it.
Okay.
At first, when we went in there, we just kind of cleaned it up, maybe did a little painting, light duty stuff,
Okay.
and you know,
What kind of wood is inside?
it's a lot of tin on the walls. I'm not sure what the bar and the back bar is made out of. Oak was pretty popular,
Okay.
so I'm really not sure what the wood is. I'm still fascinated by bars.
Yeah?
I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank for 26 years, but that's beside the point. But I still like to go in places and look at their bars. A lot of these older places have been around forever.
Yeah.
Because every bar is unique. They're all different, you know. They all got something different about them. They're not just, you went in the bar and you see the bars are the same in every liquor establishment you went to. They're all a little different if you look at them,
Okay.
the older ones.
What sort of differences do you see?
Well, there was fancy woodwork on the bar part, the front part, you know,
Okay.
and there'd be some, like this one down here has got some kind of, they're not wood made into like diamond shapes, you know, stuff like this
Okay.
are in there and stuff. And if you ever happen to go in there, you just look, or you go in an old bar, you'll just look at their bar, and you'll look at the back bar, you know, and everyone is different. It's interesting.
Hmm.
I like to go in old bars, you know, like up north and stuff, go in some old place and you just look at them back bars and their other bar. The craftsmanship was so good back then.
They took their time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember any other bars in the Rockford Greenfield area that had some really nice craftsmanship?
Yeah, the Hilltop had a real nice bar. That was the one that was in Hennepin County in Hanover. And then another one that burnt down over there in 1984. That was, that had a nice bar too. I can't describe it anymore, but I remember the three bars always had real nice bars. They just did. I just like them. Most people probably don't, you know. But I just, I like to look at them and see the craftsmanship that was in there.
Did they have a brass rail on the front?
They did. We took that out. Most of the people, they'd have these brass foot things, you know, you put your feet on. And then you had spittoons, where people would chew stuff they could spit in there.
Sure.
And we didn't have them. They had one out already before. I remember them though when they still had them, these spittoons, going in a bar with my dad, you know, and get an ice cream cone or something, you know, and you'd see these, I think they were brass little spittoons, man. Go over and spit in there or so. Yeah.
Just in between the seats at the bar?
Yeah, they'd be, I think on the end of the bars there, I'm not sure how many they had, but there was spittoons, they called them. Yeah.
What did you think of that as a kid?
Well, I think in that Hanover history book it talked about somebody used to live there years ago, and that was, they were in the bar business, in that bar years ago, And when he was a kid, he had a clean and spittoons. Not the best job in the world.
Not really.
But we didn't have them. We didn't have them in the old brass rail that used to go along there. That was replaced with a wooden kind of a step there.
Okay.
That's the difference there.
Did
But-
that wear down easier from the feet?
Not really. There was some pretty good linoleum on there. It was linoleum and, you know,
Oh, okay.
paint the sides of it. It was all in pretty good shape. I never replaced it. So,
And you had stools,
bar stools, yep.
they were covered with vinyl still?
You know, there was, years ago, the beer companies were great for coming out and advertising their beer. Like just take for instance Greenfield, well, they'd come out with your bar stool covers and they'd give them to you.
Okay.
If you put like a Greenfield bar, you just cover them, and when they wore out, maybe they'd replace them again or some other company come in, you know, and
Okay,
we had a nice looking cover, you know.
okay.
Years ago, like Ham's Beer, Greenfield, they were the locals. Ham's, Greenfield, Schmidt's, and there was Glick's. And they would give bar owners a lot of freebie stuff. So a lot of the bar stools were covered with these, they were kind of like elastic thing that you just fit over there. And
Okay.
they always looked pretty good. And they would give you, I really shouldn't say this, but because they weren't supposed to do this, they'd give you free stuff, you know.
Sure.
Because they wanted their beer on tap.
Right.
If you put, say, Greenfield on tap, we'll give you this. Free beer glasses, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
So you'd sell more beer if it was on tap than in a bottle?
We did then. Back in the 60s, tap beer was more popular. A lot of people drank tap beer. And now, I'm not sure what tap beer is, but when we went to the Hilltop, 5-6 years later, it had a lot more bottle beer was sold for some reason. So the tap beer, I think it's kind of come back now. You see a lot of places, they have all kinds of different types of tap, you know. We used to just have one kind.
Oh, okay.
It was Greenbelt or it was Schlitz or whatever you put on.
How big were the kegs?
They were 16 gallons. There wasn't full barrel. Full barrel was 32. Years ago they did that. And this is way back. I'd never seen a 32-gallon keg. I've seen a lot of 16s.
Okay.
And they were aluminum.
Okay.
They weren't wood anymore.
So the company would come and collect the kegs after they were empty?
Yep, the distributors. Say you went through 10 half barrels a week on your tap thing there, and they'd just take the empties along and give you 10 more full ones.
Okay.
They deliver, they call them distributors.
Okay.
They'd bring your bottle beer in, your keg beer. And then we also sold a lot of, we call them, they were 8-gallon kegs for people that had parties in their house or something like this,
Okay.
or had a graduation party or something like this. We'd sell a lot of 8-gallon kegs for parties.
How much were they?
Oh, I don't remember the price. A lot cheaper than they are today, but I don't remember that. I know when we were in the corner bar, tap beer was 10 cents a glass. 10
How
cents.
big were the glasses?
They were 8 or 9 ounce. And then what they do is the price increased. They would, if you started with a 9 ounce, you went to an 8, then to a 7. And finally what you did is you went from 10 to 15 cents. You see what I mean? Then you went back to the bigger glasses. You had to kind of compensate there. Yeah, we had, all the time we were at the corner bar there in Hanover, we had 10-cent beers and 10-cent pop. Candy bars were a nickel and a dime.
What was the difference between the nickel and the dime?
They were a little bigger, like Hershey's at that time made a 10-center and a nickel one.
Okay.
And like Nut Goodies, that was the good thing at the time. There was a few bars of candy that sold for 10 cents, most of them were nickel.
Okay.
Yeah. But the price increase really started coming in the 70s when we had the Hilltop. That's when we seen quite a few price increases, inflation, you know, from 72 to 77 was, we seen quite a bit of price increase on liquor and also on beer and everything else.
How come?
I don't know if it was just the times or what, I don't know why. It was inflationary in them years. Cigarettes went up, all that stuff escalated, and there was quite a few different price increases, and then the old timers especially, like Copenhagen, you know, sold quite a bit of Copenhagen yet to the old timers, and oh, they'd scream, you know, bloody murder then. I'm gonna quit chewing them, you know, keep raising the price. Well, I said, oh, you're raising the price to us, we gotta, you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of increases.
So you sold Copenhagen at the bar too?
Yep.
Okay.
Sold it by the roll or by the little can, you know.
Okay.
Cigarettes, they were, I can't remember what they were they 30 cents a pack? And now they're $7 and some cents. They were 30 cents a pack, and I remember going 35 cents a pack and then 2 for 65.
Sneaky.
Yeah, it was.
So when did bars stop being able to sell cigarettes then?
They still sell them.
Okay.
They still sell them. A lot of bars now, I noticed, I don't smoke anymore, but they have vending machines in there.
Okay.
We always sold them behind, you know, cigarettes behind the bar, we sold them like that.
Okay.
So,
And you said you had food at both the Hilltop and the River End?
we had a little more food at the Hilltop. We went the food a little bit heavier there.
What kind did you serve?
At the Hilltop, we served, again, pizzas, the frozen pizza, you know, the tombstone, stuff like that, and hamburgers. We had a, Hilltop was known for their big hamburger. We had just about a half-pound hamburger there.
Where did you get your beef?
We bought our beef from Damers up in St. Michael.
Okay.
We fried a lot of hamburgers there. We would probably go through a couple 100 pounds of hamburger a week.
Hmm.
So and then we bought a roaster type chicken cooker.
Mm-hmm.
And we served a lot of chicken. We'd buy chicken by the case, you know, they were all cut up. Probably 40 chickens in a case, you know.
Okay.
And we would, it was easy to make a dinner. It was so easy. You had pre-breaded them and all the stuff. You just open the refrigerator, and if you wanted a 3-piece dark dinner, you took 3 dark pieces out. Took some JoJo potatoes, put in there, and your 3 pieces, and close the lid, and 10 minutes later, here's your dinner, you know.
Wow.
It was quick. It was actually easier to make than it was a hamburger.
Hmm.
Because a hamburger, you had to always run back there, because it was in the next room. You had to go back, I can't quite turn it over yet, so you go back out, and then you come back, and turn it over, and then you go back out 10 bar, you know.
So you did the cooking as well as the bartending?
Except on some nights, and we'd get, our wives would come and help us. So business got better, but a lot of nights, Monday through Sunday night through Thursday night, we would do our own cooking, the bartenders would. So sometimes you run pretty ragged there.
So was it usually just you and your brother working the bar then? Or did you have other people helping?
We had some other people hired because we both had, on the Hilltop I'm talking about now, is we had different, my brother-in-law worked and I worked on the job. And we had a lady that come in and did the day shift,
Okay.
Monday through Friday. And then we would take the nights, we'd rotate the nights.
Oh, okay.
And then on a Saturday night, we'd hire somebody to come in.
Okay.
We would work, we'd rotate the weekends too. One weekend, I would work Saturday and Sundays, and the next weekend, my brother-in-law would work, so.
So getting the family together was a little tricky.
It was, I liked the bar business, I liked people, and, but it was not a good family life. My kids were small then. My youngest boy, Bob, was born when we owned the Hilltop. The other two were a little older, but it was not a good family life.
Is that why you decided to get out of the business?
I did, yeah. It was on account of the relationship between the sisters, and we were in there 5 years, and I had started the gravel business out here, sand and gravel business, and was devoting more time to it, and just didn't have the time to run the bar business anymore. So it was do one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother-in-law, he said it's just, we were just sick of the rat race.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you have a lot of people from Greenfield and Rockford and Delano come in, or were they all Hanover?
most of our business was local.
Okay.
I'd say most of my business was probably from Hennepin County, although there was some in Ray County, but because I was born over here, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In this, a lot of people were from Hennepin County. But I knew everybody in town back then. I don't hardly know a soul now in Hanover. I used to know all the people where they lived and stuff, you know? There was less than, I think there was about 400 people then. So, you just knew them if they come in the bar or not. You knew them from
Mm-hmm.
church or different activities, so you just knew everybody around. Now you don't know your next door neighbor.
You prefer the idea of knowing everybody?
Yeah, I like that.
What do you like about it? What makes you
Well,
comfortable?
I think people help people, you know. It ain't that people are more selfish today, it's just, that's just the way it is. Everybody's more independent.
Did you think that the bar served as a community gathering place then?
Yeah, I think they did. I think it was a social, how am I gonna say this, just take the farmers, okay? I'm just gonna talk about them. Years before my time, they used to haul their milk to a local creamery
Mm-hmm.
before milk trucks had come.
Mm-hmm.
Every farmer would take their milk, like Hanover had a creamery, Burschville had a creamery, Loretto had one, Rockford had one, they all had creameries. So the farmers would bring their milk to town. Well, what they would do is Hanover had 2 grocery stores at the time, filling gas station, fix tires, all that stuff, a fix-it shop. So they would come into town with their feed mill, had feed mill too, grain feed. They would bring their milk in, and then they would probably stop and pick something up. They might stop and have a couple of beers or something like this. And then they might see their neighbors in there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, maybe it was planned that I'd take my milk in at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, and then, so they'd come in and they would maybe play a couple games of euchre, you know, or cards. And there was a lot of card playing back then, but it was a social thing. They didn't have televisions or TVs, I mean, you know, all the telephones,
Yep.
didn't have that. So it was a way to find out what was going on in the area.
Yeah.
And also I think churches years ago were more, it was a social event of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the women got together and the men, they went there, and they would have more potluck dinners and stuff like this. Because that's how they got to know the neighborhood and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's missing today, you know, the social network with people that live around you. And a lot of my neighbors, I know some of them back here that I've sold these lots to back here. But they just, they care to, they'd sooner be by themselves, you know, they don't, yeah, they'll stop and talk to them, they'll talk to you, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
it's, I really haven't made any close friendships from anybody that lives back here, you know. I know them, they're
Sure.
friendly like that, but that's just the way society is today.
Do you think it has something to do with farming being a fairly solitary lifestyle, so that you look for the social?
You mean my upbringing, or what?
Well, farming in general, you're on a tractor by yourself, so you seek out
I think so,
social?
yeah. See, when you were farming, say you had your 80 acres there, and you did, you milked your cows, you took your own milk to the creamery, you were by yourself, you and your wife and your family there. I know years ago that we would celebrate a lot of birthdays with my cousins and the neighbors, get together, you know, and you know, have lunch at night, you know. If there was a birthday party, they had a birthday cake for the little kid that had a birthday or something. We did a lot of that in the neighborhood, you know, so they socialized quite a bit. And also, like on Sunday afternoons, we were just talking about that. This week, my mother-in-law is 94 years old, you know, and she's just talking about that the other day. We were up there painting her bedroom.
York.
That's okay. We can just wait.
Call from New York.
Do you need to take that?
So,
Please leave a message after
and
the
she
tone.
said 2 people would go visiting unannounced.
Okay.
They would just go someplace after, especially on Sunday, they just go visit somebody. You know, here we are, you know.
Yep.
And that's how it was. We did the same thing. We just go visiting a lot. Now, when you do something, you call first, you know, you're gonna be home or something, we're gonna come over, or, you know, you wait for an invite. It's a
Right.
little different. Years ago, that's how they, I think it was, that part was better years ago. They worked harder. There's more modern conveniences now. Farmers really worked hard. A lot of handwork. Where now it's still a hard occupation. It's a lot of work, but a lot of it's made easier.
When you say handwork, what do you mean by that?
Well, they milked the cows by hand before electricity came in,
Okay.
you know, and now they got milk machines, they got milking powers. The farmers are bigger now. They used to, like say, go out and cut the grain and they had to shock it. Well, that was by hand. Well, now they go in with a combine, you know, and it goes into the wagon and goes into your storage facility, your granary, and but before they had to pitch the bundles, the horses, and take them up to the thrashing machine. It was just a lot more work. It just was.
So when they had downtime, they would go down to the bars. What else did they do for entertainment?
I don't think they just, when they had downtime, I don't think they went to the bars. I think it was, they went to town for something else, and then they maybe stopped at the bar. I don't, some people might have abused their stay at the bar, but, you know, there was always that factor too, but
How about the dances and things?
well, Lake Sarah had a dance hall. You probably heard about that one. That was in Greenfield here, and that was, they just had dances in the summertime. It would open on Easter Sunday, regardless how early Easter was. That was their opener.
Okay.
And sometime in the fall they would close. I don't remember, but I remember Easter Sunday was first dance of the season, Sunday nights, and there was a lot of wedding dances there. Just about every Saturday night it seemed there was a dance there. Wedding dances. A lot of people had their dances there. So I went to a lot of dances there. I never was into dancing, but it was just a place to go and hang out with people, you know, talk, BS, whatever, you know. Might do a little dancing, but I never cared for dancing that much myself. Went there a lot. There was a lot of big name bands. Whoopi John and Six Fat Dutchmen were big back then. And there was a lot of smaller bands which I like to listen to just as much as them
Oh, okay.
popular bands. They charge you a little more admission for the Whoopi Johns and the
Sure.
Six Fat, but they weren't worth it anymore as far as I'm concerned.
What were the other band names?
Oh, there was Wally Pickle, Elmer Scheid. Oh gosh. Evan Cale. I liked Evan Cale. I haven't thought about that for quite a few years, but yeah, there was some good. There were polka bands, you know.
Sure.
Waltzes, polkas, stuff like that. I don't remember what it cost to get in. It wasn't too much. And if you waited until 10:30, then the wheel went off, then you get in for nothing.
Oh.
There's some people I used to do that, so they get in for nothing. But yeah, Lake Sarah was very popular. And then sometime in the 50s, I'd say about the mid 50s, sometime in there is when Medina built their complex.
Okay.
And they had a dance hall there. But that was, Medina was open year round, you know, in a bowling alley. They had, it's not as big as it was today, but they had that, so. And Lake Sarah, I'm not sure when they closed, I'm gonna say in, late 50s, maybe early 60s in there, someplace in there, I don't know. I
Okay.
remember in late 50s, we'd go down there quite a bit, so it had to be in the early 60s when they closed.
How old were you in the late 50s then?
I was born in 1940, so I'd have been a teenager until 1960, so.
And they didn't have any age restrictions on getting into the dance hall?
No. They had one thing that was kind of unique there. They had what they called the bullpen,
Okay.
and that was kind of like Lake Sarah was just like a Quonset type building,
Okay.
uninsulated. The windows were like doors that swung open like this with a rope.
Oh, okay.
So to get some air movement in there, you just went and pulled the rope and then opened the door. So if it was raining outside, the wind was blowing, you closed your. No, there was no windows in there. But the bullpen was a place kind of fenced off, and that's where you went in and bought your beer.
Okay.
Okay. And teenagers were not allowed in there. And they always had a cop there. You had to have a cop there. So he was there to watch that there was no fights and all that stuff. And they really watched you pretty close. You had to be 21 to get in there and stuff. So
Okay.
the Mitchells owned it at the time. Sid and Ben Mitchell, and it was on their farm, just a building on their farm. Just a hole in the wall, a couple small little bathrooms out in the back. I mean, very unsanitary. But it was a place to go, you know, there was no other place for, like, if you wanted a wedding dance, you know, that's where you went, you know.
If there had been another dance hall, do you think it would have done as well?
I don't know. St. Michael had one, it was a smaller one, like Sarah was pretty good size. At least I thought it was. And a bigger dance floor. St. Michael was a smaller type dance. Probably would hold half the people that Lake Sarah did.
Oh,
It was
okay.
quite a bit.
So how many people would Lake Sarah hold?
That's a good question. I'm gonna just guess 300, but you know, there was booths all the way around it, you know. I had 200 maybe. I don't know. He has pretty good wedding dances there. They did a good business there.
So a lot of your friends had dances there?
Yeah, some of them did, but the time a lot of my friends were getting married is when they were closed already, so then you had to
Okay.
find something else. But,
Okay.
excuse me, I gotta run again.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Shut that
You're
off.
fine.
That's one thing I don't like about these interviews is when I say how many people Lake Sarah held. It's, so we all know it, somebody might say, oh, they didn't hold near that much or maybe a lot more. So it's anybody's, you know, that's quite a few years ago since Lake Sarah was open. But in different dates, somebody might dispute my memory of dates and stuff like this, or how things were. It's just how I remember things,
Mhm.
okay?
Yep.
I know that book that was written on the city of Hanover.
Mhm.
I bought that book a few years ago and I'm reading that thing, and there's some things in there which I can dispute because I happen to be living at that time, you know. So, but I don't say nothing. It's just that that's how that person perceived it or remembers it
Mhm.
30, 40 years later. So,
How many booths were around the outside of the dance floor then?
oh, that's another question. Maybe 25, 30. I just,
They were wood?
yeah, just plain old wood. It was just a shell of a building. It just, one night, I wasn't there, but somebody down the hill, like the ballroom sat up here and down the hill here was the lake. There was a parking lot down there a little bit and then the lake was here. Somebody floated a boat out there with a bunch of dynamite in it,
Oh no.
and it went off. And of course it shot water up, it came through the windows, you know. We had the doors open, you know, that thing just, and I never heard too much about it, but that was probably before I started going down there, you know. But that story was going on for years, how that water came from the lake, and they must have quite a bit of dynamite.
I would say. So that was in the 50s?
It could have been. Story, it's pretty sure it's true, you know. Some people that are older than me might have been there or something like that, but it was,
What other stories do you remember?
there was a lot of fights in
Really?
there, yeah. Especially, some of it would be between towns, you know.
Oh, like which towns?
Well, like Loretto, you know, your group there, and then maybe Corcoran or Loretto and Rockford or something, you know. It was just kind of like little cliques and stuff, and it didn't happen all the time, but there was, you know, if you're from Hanover, you stayed with the Hanover crew, you know. There was fights like that, but then I think most of the fights came when there was people come out from Robbinsdale, you know, and stuff like that. And of course, they come out here and thought they were tough, but the farm kids out here were pretty tough too. So I seen a lot of fights. I just, you know, it was kind of like go down Lake Sarah for fights, you know.
Huh.
So there was a lot of that. And you go outside and half the dance hall would pour out, you know, and watch the people fighting out there.
So the cop that was there allowed the fight to happen?
Well, he was probably inside and the fight started inside but got outside, you know. So then finally he would go out there and break it up once he knew something was going on out there. So my uncle was a bouncer down there
Okay.
in the 50s.
What was his name?
Eddie Bursch.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a good sized man, about 6'1", you know. He kind of liked that, I think, you know.
What do you think he liked about it?
I don't know, I just think he liked the people and stuff, and try to keep like these different towns, you know, keep them more friendly and stuff, you know, to prevent them, you know.
Sure.
And if they did get in a fight, well, he was big enough to break it up, you know. So, but anyway, he did that, and there was a couple other bouncers. Don't remember their names.
How did they get chosen?
The local city had a couple of people that were constables.
Okay.
He happened to be one of them, and they're the townships at the time. And then the Mitchells, they'd be responsible for hiring this guy and paying for the bouncer,
Oh.
owners of the ballroom.
Okay.
But they would have to be okayed by the city, I think. You know, you just couldn't put a badge on somebody, you know. Somebody had to say he's okay, he can be bouncer, because they did wear a badge.
Okay.
The bouncers did. So they did have some authority. But I wouldn't have wanted that job. But there was, yeah, they had to break up some fights, and of course the people that were fighting didn't always listen to them, you know.
Right.
So it was,
Were people arrested then, if it got out of control?
I don't remember of anybody getting arrested. I don't. Yeah, I don't remember. It could have been, but I don't remember. Usually somebody had a bloody nose, so he stopped fighting, and then the fight was over, and it was just boys will be boys type thing.
Was the town relationships, was that based on an ethnic background, or?
I don't think it was that. That part I don't think so. I think it was, every town had a baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
Corcoran had a baseball team. Rockford, Delano, Hanover, St. Michael, they all had baseball teams, and I think maybe the friction started a little bit there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? A lot of local people would go on the Sunday afternoons when they played baseball and watch the games. They were
Mm-hmm.
pretty well attended, you know, on these baseball teams. My grandfather used to live in Rockford, and we would go over there on Sunday afternoons if Rockford played at home.
Mm-hmm.
At home that Sunday, we'd go to the ball games a lot of times
Okay.
at Rockford.
And it was just local guys on the team?
Local guys, yep. All local guys.
Did you ever play?
Nope. Hanover, their team dropped out, I'm gonna say, in the mid-50s. They couldn't get enough people to field the team anymore.
Okay.
Rockford continued into the 60s. Loretto always was a big baseball town in Hamel. They've been around forever. And, Rockford, Hanover, St. Michael is back in it again. I think they dropped out too. So anyway, I don't think it was ethnic at all. I think it was just, I think some people just actually like to fight, you know? I really think that was it, you know? So then they go and just antagonize somebody or something like this. I really don't know what started all the fights, I don't. But these guys from Robbinsdale would come out and and some of them were pretty tough.
Would they come out as tourists, or would they just?
No, they just come out there, well, let's go out to the heck town of, you know, Greenfield Township and see what we can trouble we can get into out there. I think that was kind of the thing, you know.
Okay.
So
Because there were a lot of tourists that came out for the resorts.
that's way before my time, yeah.
Okay.
Getting into the resorts, I remember there was quite a few resorts on Lake Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm talking about is resorts is a little hole in the wall type building, say it's as big as this kitchen, you know.
Okay.
And you'd go in there and you'd rent a boat. A lot of them didn't have a bartender there full time. It was just, you went there and they come out of their house and you rented a boat from them.
Okay.
And if you needed a beer or something or a pop, you could buy stuff there. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about as resorts. I can remember, let's see, there's 1, 2, there had to be, I'm gonna say 7, 8 resorts on Lake Sarah, you know?
Okay.
Just little, some of them were a little bigger. Some of them I think had some cabins or something, but I don't.
What are the names that you remember?
Oh, one was Dorn's, one was Melky's, one was Bud Apple. On the south side was actually in Greenwood yet. And then there was Shady Beach. That was an Independence side. And then Wally's Resort was over towards Loretto there, and that end of the lake. Wally's Resort. That was more of a resort type. He'd get music in there on Saturday nights, and you know, just kind of a little. He'd have coon feeds and stuff, raccoons, you know.
Raccoon feeds?
Yeah. Do you ever eat raccoon?
No,
It's pretty good.
I've eaten squirrel.
Yeah. When we had the hilltop, we used to have coon feeds.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lady, Liz Leffler. She would come in and her husband Clarence would hunt coon. And they'd probably get 50 coons, you know. And they'd keep cleaning them, put them in the freezer, you know. And then she'd make this all at home, and she'd bring it down there on a Saturday. And she would run out every year. 50, 60 coons are pretty big, you know.
Yeah, they are. They just roasted?
Yeah, they'd roast it, and then she'd have some other stuff with it, like coleslaw, you know, dinner. And there was places in Rockford too had coon feeds every year. It was popular. Isn't no more.
No, couldn't say that it would be.
And it, Doc Thielen, he delivered me. He used to come in there when we had the hilltop. And he lived in, he retired many years ago, and he lived in New Brighton. And he told me, he says, you let me know when that coon feed is next year. He said, he'd come out there every year, you know, we had the bar, you know. And Liz, she put the big coon feed on. We'd start about 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the coon. The place would just be swamped, just waiting in line to eat the coon. Yeah, it was good.
What did it taste like?
Like everything else, tastes like chicken.
I thought you might say that.
It was, yeah, I've eaten squirrel too. It was, yeah, it's something like pork, maybe a chicken crossed a little, you know, something to that. It was just good. And there was a way to fix it. I went to a couple other coon feeds too, and Liz was a very good cook, and she used to do a lot of catering, a lot of weddings and stuff. But you had to take the fat off the coon, you know, make sure all the fat's off. That was important. She baked it with all that fat on, it got too greasy.
Oh.
So it was, the preparation had a lot to do with how good, and when you shot the coon, you had to skin them, you know, within a reasonable time. You didn't let them lay in the garage for 2 days or so. You know. So how you took care of the meat once you killed it that was important too. So I think Lawrence took good care of his. He had the coon hounds, you know, they'd go out in the woods, you hunted them at night, you know.
Okay.
The coon hounds would go and they'd tree them, you know, and you'd flash lights up there, you know, and you'd shoot the coon out of the tree.
Was there a season for them?
Yeah, it was in the fall of the year.
Okay.
So, I don't know much about the hunting part of it, but I know coon was good. So,
And so the city folks would come out to the resort and have a coon feed.
well, yeah, I think some people, I think most of it was local, when they had, like Wally had his down there. And, I think most of it was like Loretto people around Hamilton, you know, there, like Rockford. Some people from Hanover might go, some from Delno might. I'm not sure if anybody in Delno had coon feeds or not. I never heard about it, but I know Rockford had them. Wally had them over there in Lake Sarah. And years ago, Bill Dodds used to own what we call the Hilltop today. He'd have coon feeds, so it was pretty popular. And I think it kind of died out in the 70s there. Now I don't think anybody has coon feeds anymore.
Mm-mm.
If you ever hear of one, I would suggest going.
I'll have to keep my ears open.
It's quite an experience.
Are there still hunting seasons for them though?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. One day we played cards over here about 7-8 years ago, and this guy said, don't make nothing for lunch. He says, I'm bringing over lunch. And he comes over here in the morning. He had started at home roasting it, you know. It was a coon. He said, oh, we're eating coon today, yep. So that's when my first wife was living at, and she says, I'm not eating coon, you know. And she tried it, and she thought it was pretty good too. But it's just the idea of eating a raccoon, you know. It's mind over matter. It's pretty good.
What else was served at the resorts?
It depends on, you know, I'm looking at resorts like Wally's was more of a place you might go Saturday night for a little dance, and it was more of a, I don't know how you would describe it. A lot of these other, Shady Beach had a little dance floor too. That one there was open and was closed, you know. I remember going over there for some little things too. As a late teenager, you know. And it's been closed a long time. But like, but Apple's there, he had a nice little bar there, you know. That people could come in. But like Melky's, they just had, it was a room off the house there, but they had some candy bars and, you know, pop and stuff like that.
Okay.
He sold ice.
Okay.
He would harvest ice in the wintertime and then put it in a shack with sawdust over it, you know. Melky's had that. Every resort around Lake Sarah was a little different.
Okay.
Some were just getting older and they just kind of didn't care to do too much. But I remember we used to go to Melky's and rent a boat, you know, the old flat bottom boats, and go out there and go fishing. Most of the places Like on BB Lake out here too, you know, there was at least 4 places, maybe more, that would rent boats.
Oh,
You wanna go out there, and most people didn't have a boat back then,
right.
so you went and rented one, so you could go fishing.
Were they just farmers that had an extra boat?
This resort probably owned the boats. He
Okay,
probably had 6, 7 boats, these
okay.
old flat bottoms. And then if you wanted a motor, you bought your own motor, but if otherwise you oared, you know, you
This was
rowed.
out at Milky's?
Milky's had boats. I'm not sure about, we never went to any other resorts to go fishing. We always went to Milky's
Okay.
if we rented a boat. I'm just talking about some of the resorts that I was at. So,
Yeah, it was Sunfish?
yeah, it was a good sunfish lake. It was. It's real good right now too.
Hmm.
I don't fish much anymore, but my buddy does, and Bill Rich, and he brings me over fish. So I don't have to go fishing. And you've been getting some nice sunfish like this on Lake
Wow.
Serena. Yeah, real nice.
Those
Just
are
had some last week.
size.
Real nice size sunfish.
Were
So-
they always that big?
Years ago they was, and then Lake Serena for quite a few years was not a good fishing lake, it seemed. You didn't hear too many people, oh, they're biting on Lake Serena type, you know?
Uh-huh.
Where now it's good again. I don't know why. BB Lake used to be the best lake around here. For some reason, the fish out of there, they really tasted good.
Hmm.
Some of these lakes, they're like a little muddy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, yeah, then there was a little Shendall Lake, we used to call it Showers. It's just a little lake, you know where Hafton's Lake is?
Yeah.
You know where Shendall is?
How about you explain it?
It's right north. There's no access to it of Hafton's.
Okay,
There's a little creek that connects them.
okay.
Well, there's Doc Winter, I think he still lives in there. When he bought that place, he closed all accesses off, and nobody can get in that lake and fish in the wintertime anymore, you know?
What was his name?
Dr. Winter.
Okay.
And you can't get in that lake anymore to fish. We used to go there too and rent a boat, you know, and it's a deep lake. It's a mud lake, but you know.
How deep?
They say it's really deep, 40, 50, maybe 60 feet, you know?
Okay.
Not sure if it was good northerns.
Oh,
You get some sunfish out of there too.
Hmm.
But, yeah, but there's no access to it anymore. I'm sure there isn't. Or Hafton's, they got public access there. I think you could walk it up the creek a little bit, and you could get on there. I don't think he could stop you, but, you know. I don't fish, so I'm not sure. But that was about the only thing in Greenwood.
How about Wally's? Did they have boats for rent as well?
Yep, he had boats down there. Boats, coon feeds, yeah, his name was Wally Georges, he was a promoter.
What do you mean?
He'd promote his, he was a guy that was friendly, outgoing, you know, and just, during the week he was a cement guy, you know, he laid cement blocks and stuff like that.
Okay.
Him and his 3 brothers, they laid the blocks for this basement.
Oh,
They just about laid the blocks for all the building that went around this area. There's 4 brothers. And so, but Wally was a outgoing promoter, yeah. He had a lot of ducks around there, just all kinds of stuff.
so the resort was a weekend business for him?
You know, I'm not sure if his wife kind of ran the thing, and if you wanted to rent a boat, I'm really not sure about that. I know it was open on weekends. He'd have maybe 1 or 2 piece bands come in there, you know, a little live music and stuff like, you know. But as far as people coming out from town, I think that happened years and years ago. And they probably came out, I've heard stories of getting on a train and then getting off in Rockford.
Yeah.
And then it's just a short shot to all the resorts out there.
Yeah, and I heard Lake Sarah had its own depot.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found an old picture of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought they went to Rockford and then,
They did do that too, but
Oh.
yeah, they had a Lake Sarah depot as well.
oh, we jiggered. Yeah. Interesting. So I really didn't do too much with the resorts. I remember my grandfather, Herman Zerman, he used to spear out there on Lake Sarah in the wintertime. Well, one Sunday afternoon we went over to visit him and he was out on Lake Sarah spearing. And to get into Melky's there, kind of a long drive, when you came down, railroad tracks was down here, then you went up into your yard like this.
Okay.
It's in a valley. But we came down there and we started going across and my dad couldn't make it up the hill. It was
Oh, no.
too icy. We started sliding back down and the train come
Oh no.
right behind us, yeah. And that train's going through. It was a short train, luckily. And I was sitting there thinking, we're gonna die because we're gonna slide back into that. But we had a 50 Dodge and it had kind of like a fluid drive. It's like an automatic kind of, but. And my dad just kept enough torque on there. He didn't spin the wheels, you know,
Right.
just enough to, you know. And the car just sat there. And then after the train went through, then we backed down across the tracks, then got a run to get up to go out and see if Grandpa had speared any fish. I'll never forget that day. That was scary.
Did they change the crossing so it was safer?
No, I think it stayed like that. I think somebody else got hit out there too. Lauren will know more about that. Ask Lauren about the tracks at Melky's. I don't know if he had an accident there or... I remember some people get hit on the tracks though. And we were close. Because it came down and then went right up.
So was it worth going to find Grandpa after all that?
Well, I don't remember that, but I remember I was scared. That was a bad, bad crossing. There's so many things now that are so much safer. The workplace, you know, there's a lot of things that there was no safety years ago. Like the trains, built tracks that went around, if you want to cross them, you cross them, you know. They didn't have all these lights and everything flashing, you know. On main roads they might have, but a lot of these small crossings, they had a sign with the X on it, you know, railroad crossing, but you're at your own risk, you're going across there.
Were there a lot of accidents because of that?
I think there was. I really do. And most of it wasn't the train's fault. They knew the tracks were, people knew the tracks were there and the train might come through there once in a while. You better look, you know. But, and I think some people thought they could beat the train rather than wait for it. So, I don't know.
What other things had changed with as far as like Lake Sarah and the entertainment and the bars, you know, as far as safety goes?
I don't know. Safety in the bars, you mean?
Yeah, or the lakes, or the resorts, anything.
Or, I don't know, Lake Sarah now. Is there any place on there where you could actually stop and buy a pop? I don't know if there is. I don't know if Wally's is open, I don't think, and Wally's been dead quite a few years. I bet if you went all around that lake, I gotta ask Billy once, he fishes it, and if there's any place on there that's actually what you'd call a resort, I don't know. Maybe Lauren would know that too. I don't think there is.
I think you're right.
The places I'm talking about they're closed, I know that. Unless there's something new, but, and I say there was quite a few around Lake Sarah that just had some kind of, I think when people started owning their own boats in the 50s, you know, they started owning their own boat, you know, and now, I don't know, most places you can't rent a boat anymore.
No.
I think that's passed. Never thought of that. So, now there's no resorts there, I don't think there's a cabin. Well, you know, see, that'd be on the north side of the lake, you know where Al Moen lives? Up there? That side of the lake, there was a lot of cabins. They were all cabins. That's why them lots were only 50 feet wide or something, you know? But they're such small lots. And they were just weekend, people come out there for a weekend, you know. And eventually some of them started upgrading them, you know, insulating them and stuff like that so they could use them in the wintertime and started living there. And it is what it is today, but it started out as just basically cabins. A lot of them were just cabins.
What do you think it is about the lake that people like?
I really don't know. if Lake Sarah is what attracts people to Lake Sarah. Maybe it was the location. It was right on 55, you know. It wasn't that far from the cities. Around here, back in the 40s, 50s, you know, there wasn't a lot of water skiing or nothing like this, because Lake Sarah is longer, you know, long, narrow lake. I don't know what attracts people to. Number one, you could rent a boat there. Of course, you could on BB too. I say there was at least 3-4 places on BB. Charlotte, there was. Most places had quite a few places you could rent, like Buffalo Lake and stuff like this. You just had little resorts. Kind of a thing that's gone now. Either it's big or it's not here, you know.
I think Buffalo has boats for rent still.
They do.
Yeah, down by Buffalo Lake there. They've got some sailboats and some paddle boats.
Oh,
Things.
you can actually rent a boat there. I did not know that. So I don't know what made, I think the location was for people that maybe couldn't afford the Minnetonka route to come out here to Lake Sarah or something like this, you know.
Yeah.
I think the real rich people, they went to Minnetonka. That was for the rich people. I wonder how the dance hall ever got started. That'd be another. Did the Mitchells build it? I don't know. Or who built it?
So as far as you know, it's just always been there.
In my lifetime it has, yep. It's always been there. But I don't know if they built it or if somebody else built it and then they ended up buying the farm where it was on or something like this, I don't know. Mitchell's appeared to be pretty old when I was a teenager. So I think Lake Sarah's been around a long time, the dance hall.
Oh, good. Is there anything else that you'd like to give me? Any more memories?
Oh, you could sit down in a lot of these resorts. You could go in there and they had a little short bar. Okay, I'm talking about bars before. They'd have a little, there might be 4 or 5 bar stools, you know. So you could actually stop in there. And some of these places had ice cream cones, you know. Stop and get an ice cream cone or a pop or, and if they rented a boat, they probably, when they came back from fishing, they probably came in and had a beer or pop, you know, or bought ice cream cones for the kids.
Sure.
But they had a little short bar there, and all these bars around there, they're all 3-2 bars.
Okay.
You know the difference between 3-2 and strong? Or, you know?
How about you tell me?
Well, 3-2 has got less, it can't be over 3.2 volume alcohol, okay? And strong beer was always above that.
Okay.
So strong beer. The liquor stores, when you served liquor, you could serve the strong beer. So all these places were 3-2. Like I was talking about when we had the Hanover corner bar there, that was 3-2. We could serve just 3-2 beer over the bar. Couldn't serve strong. But Greenwood Township at the time, they couldn't give a liquor license out. That's why all these places were, well, they really weren't big enough to have a volume of a liquor store because they were not incorporated.
Okay.
Townships could issue 3-2 licenses, but they couldn't issue liquor license.
Okay.
That was one of the things that if you were incorporated, you could do.
Okay.
So in 1958, I want to read this, I wrote this down. I noticed recently when Greenwood Township became incorporated in 1958, they were known as Greenwood Village. That's not true. I've seen a printing here recently that they referred to it when we incorporated at that time, we became Greenwood Village. We didn't, we became Greenfield Village, okay?
Oh, okay.
I don't know where I've seen that. And I said, well, I know that's not true. I was in the Army in 1958, and my dad was, he had been on the town board, and then they decided to incorporate, okay? And he was elected the first mayor of Greenfield And they couldn't call it Greenwood Village because there was another Greenwood on Minnetonka.
Okay.
You ever heard of Greenwood? City of Greenwood on Minnetonka?
Mhm.
Well, they couldn't have two Greenwood villages in Hennepin County.
Mhm.
So out here, we had to change our name. That's how Greenfield came into effect. In 1958, we went from Greenwood Township to the village of Greenfield.
Okay.
It never was. Next time I see the city administrator, I want to talk to her, Chuck Elcon too. You know Chuck?
Yep.
That they should refer to when Greenfield became incorporated, it became Greenfield.
Yeah.
And that was the reason for it. They couldn't have two Greenwoods in Hennepin County.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard.
So I know that's a fact, that's when they had to change it, and they thought about what we're gonna name it, and somebody came up with Greenfield,
Yep.
and then it would still have green in it, you know?
Right.
So that's how Greenfield got its name. On account of, couldn't be Greenwood. So there's still, some people are referring to it, I'm not sure who did this, but as Greenwood Village. And when we incorporated, we became a village, okay? And then years later, they changed it to a city.
Okay.
There was nothing to change, it was just that we're not having villages anymore, the state says we're having
Right.
cities.
Right.
So Greenfield became, I think there's a sign in the Greenfield Hall now that says Greenfield Village. Building permits required. They didn't have building permits before.
Okay.
Now they're gonna have, when they incorporated, they started having building permits.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm just about positive on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. That's what I've read too. So.
Anyway, that's all I had there. Yeah, it's interesting. I say there's one thing I don't like to be is misquoted. It just bugs me when somebody says, well, you said this, and I said, no, I really never said that, you know? This is what I really said, you know what I mean?
Well, now we've got
Now
it
you got me on tape. Well, now
We've got you for sure.
you got me nailed, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just hate that when
Yeah.
somebody says, well, you said this, and I said, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Or somebody will get up in a meeting and then somebody will say, well, this is what he really said, and I said, no, I really said this, you know? I can say what you know,
Yep.
when people want to tell me what I just got done saying, or it's like when the president or somebody gives a speech, you know, national TV speech like State of the Union, then afterwards all these commentators, this is what he said, you know, and they'll pick it apart. Well, we just heard it with my own ears. I don't have to listen to you guys, you know what I mean? Doesn't that bug you?
Well, now we've got it on tape, and people can listen to you as much as they want to. They can rewind it and play it again.
Yeah, but anyway, that's one of my pet peeves, but
Well, thank you so much for doing the interview. I really appreciate it.
yeah.
So, thank you again.
Yeah, I don't go to a lot of these meetings, but retirement is not what I thought it was. It's a lot busier.
Yeah,
It
that's what
just
I've heard.
is.
That's what I've heard. That retirement is not necessarily your time to relax anymore. You spend a lot of time at the Greenfield meetings then?
I don't. I was on the